Good evening, everyone. I see the time is 5:30 p.m. It is Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting of the Village of Harrison Hot Springs Council to order. I'd like to acknowledge that our meeting takes place on the traditional territory of the Stehelas. Item 3 of our agenda is public hearing if required, and corporate officers, there's no public hearings tonight. Item 4, introduction of late items. Are there any late items to introduce tonight? Seeing none, I'll move to item 5, approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion to the motion. I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion, and that carries. Item 6. Declarations of conflict of interest. With the approved agenda, are there any declarations of conflict of interest this evening? Seeing none, I'll move to item 7, adoption of council minutes.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion, and that carries unanimously. Item 8 on our agenda is business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising from the minutes tonight? Seeing none, I'll move to item 9, delegations and petitions. I understand Mr. Rob Ringma, Senior Manager, and is here tonight. Welcome, and I believe a colleague of yours, Midhat Malik, is participating remotely. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We'll stand back a little further.
Please proceed. You have the floor.
Excellent, thank you so much. Yes, so my name's Rob Ringman. I'm the Senior Manager of Government Relations with BC Transit for the South Coast region. So I oversee pretty much everything around TransLink. So Fraser Valley, Sea to Sky Corridor, as well as the Sunshine Coast. And my key role is I'm the main liaison between local governments and BC Transit. So I'm charged with the task of supporting staff and councils with data and information for them to make sound transit decisions within their communities. Very happy to be here in Harrison today. And as mentioned, I'm joined by Midhat Malik, who's one of our business development advisors in our revenue department. Midhat, I'll start the presentation. Midhat will go through the bulk of the content in the presentation because, well, she's the one that actually put it together. So good job, Midhat. So why are we here today? We usually at BC Transit, we try to provide fare reviews about every 5 years. Review the cost of the system, the fare products that are available, the revenue that's generated from those fare products, mainly because local governments, you retain 100% of the revenue to help offset your transit costs. So revenue is important to local governments in helping to support transit and transit growth. We started to do a fare review in 2020, very preliminary, started to do the work, and then this thing called the pandemic hit, and ridership in transit across the province really dropped off a cliff. So we put a pause on that, also because the federal and provincial governments supported transit across the province with safe restart funds. Because of the decrease in ridership, they knew there was going to be some challenges with local governments affording transit when there was basically very little revenue coming in from a fare review perspective or fare product perspective. So they supplied dollars, federal and provincial government, to help support transit through those kind of COVID years. That money came with 2 stipulations. One was you can't increase fares, and number 2, you can't decrease service. And that was actually well advised because we knew that if communities started to decrease service levels or they started to increase fares, well, then ridership would continue to fall off a cliff, and it'd be very hard to recover from that type of systematic or systemic kind of decrease in volume. So we started again after that. Sorry, that had a stipulation till March of 2024, so not changing fares or decreasing service. And now those that governor is off, and we're back to just analyzing transit systems and fare revenue. We are doing this across the Fraser Valley, so I'm having the same conversations in Mission and Abbotsford, as I am. I was just in the District of Kent this evening. I'll be in Hope next week, and then obviously in Chilliwack. So we're trying to find see if there's some opportunities for alignment in fares across all those systems, because it just makes it more understandable and convenient for customers at the end of the day if we can get there. You'll see on this next slide that that MidHat's put up. I'll remind kind of council that there's a shared funding formula through our shared services formula where BC Transit covers 47% of the cost of transit in your region. For your system, it's the 71. Local government supports the other 53%, but of your 53%, you get 100% of the revenue. So you subtract the cost, you subtract the revenue, and what you're left with is a deficit that's usually made up through taxation, so property taxes. So revenue and fare revenue does have an impact. It's a user pay service, but it also is a taxpayer funded service. So trying to find that right balance between maintaining affordability, having enough revenue to continue to promote the service and continue to grow the service. We're trying to find that and strike that right balance. And then MidHat will talk a bit about some of the technology improvements we've made and how we're trying to move forward. So really today, there's no formal recommendation that's before you. The Fraser Valley Regional District Board ultimately is our annual operating agreement holder for the 71 and the 72 service. But clearly there are elected officials here that sit on that board. So we want to make sure that you're informed before it goes to the board. And also MidHat and I are here to take any comments, questions, thoughts, recommendations that we can kind of put together before we formally present that to the board. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to MidHat and she'll walk you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. So we're doing a fare review here in the AGC Harrison and Hope system, and we're working on doing it across the province as well. And it's just a review that we do every couple of years to ensure that we're taking a look at fare structures and maximizing revenue, considering affordability and attracting and retaining ridership. We had a successful implementation of phase 1 of our UMO TAP technology earlier last year, where people can now pay through an app and a card. Next up is phase 2, where which will be launching later this year, and we'll have even more convenience when we launch the ability for people to use their to use their debit or credit card to tap on as fare payment for the bus. All of the recommendations that we're making today are to help streamline fares and products and make the introduction of TAP technology as simple and streamlined as possible. I'm just starting off here with our fare strategy guidelines that we tried to align to across all of our BC Transit systems. In the AGC Harrison and Hope system, we're pretty much aligned except for the 30-day passes, which fall a bit outside of our guidelines. We're going to be aiming through this review to be increasing that by a little bit. So here is a breakdown of revenue by product type, and we can see that single ride fares are still the most popular way to board the bus. UMO was introduced in January 2024 in the AGC Harrison and Hope system, and people can pay with both stored value or cash. And you can see that there has been an increase in uptake over the time that it has been here, that people are starting to use UMO to pay for single rides or pass products, but single cash is still very popular. You'll note that at the beginning of fall of last year, we removed all paper legacy pass products available for purchase at vendors. So now people can buy their 30-day passes or their 10 ride products or their day passes through the mobile app, or they can go to a vendor like they previously did and load up their card, their UMO card. And also just wanted to note that the day pass that has not been popular at all. It's currently at 0%, and 10 rides is at 1% of revenue. Okay, so in terms of affordability programs, we've got a provincial-wide program called the BC Bus Pass that's funded by the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction for low-income seniors or those receiving disability assistance. So currently it makes, or in 2024, the revenue from this program made up 17% of fare revenues for the system. And the Get On Board program is meant for youth under age 12 to gain the confidence and skills to ride the bus. And that program, funded by Ministry of Transportation and Transit, generated about 3% of fare revenue last year. Here is a beautiful and complicated graph essentially outlining the revenues and costs for the past 5 years and forecasting the next upcoming 3 years, along with the cost recovery rate for both the AGC Harrison and Hope system. So you can see that costs are continuing to rise in the next few years, while cost recovery is going to continue declining unless we reconsider the fare choices and make up additional revenue sources to offset the increasing expenses. Here you'll see the fare history for the AGC Harrison system since the previous fare reviews. So the single ride fare has not changed or not increased since 2000, though the last fare review occurred in September 2017, and that's when all of the different options for single ride fares and 10 ride fares became more consolidated, where we removed the zone system. Other notable changes have been the introduction of the Get On Board program, which was introduced in 2022 for people under 12 to ride the bus for free. In January 2024, with the introduction of UMO, the Day Pass program was expanded to allow unlimited travel on Chilliwack, AGC Harrison, and Hope routes for the entire day, but we have not received, or we've not seen much uptake on that. So the Hope route was launched in 2017, and fares were introduced to match AGC Harrison and Hope, and no change has been made since its introduction. So we're conducting fare reviews in each of the systems outlined on this page. You'll note that the AGC Harrison and Hope system has the highest single ride fare, but the 30-day passes are aligned with Chilliwack currently. Both Chilliwack and Central Fraser Valley will be increasing their fares shortly. So we are going to be considering on opportunities for alignment across the systems in the Fraser Valley. And just to note here that the average adult fare across Canada in 2023 was $3.50. So these systems are still considerably more affordable. One big thing that we are proposing as part of this fare review is the decision to move towards fare capping and automatic day pass instead of the existing transfer system. So in order to kind of address the ongoing potential for conflict between operators and passengers when inevitably a 90-minute transfer expires mid-journey, we are hoping that to reduce stress and confusion for riders and operators, shift away from the model and offer the ability that when people pay twice, they have an automatic day pass in the system rather than worrying about the fare expiring. And here you'll see like this graph that really highlights the amount of people that would benefit from this policy. So there's significantly less people that are able to like ride within a single fare and do their entire trip, rather than most people, majority of people will be riding outside of the 90-day policy, the 90-minute policy, and paying 2 fares anyways. So this one will just increase simplicity and like without having to think about it, you get an automatic day pass, and then you can potentially even ride more often in the day. Okay, Here we're going to get into 4 options that we're presenting in terms of fare adjustments. Each of those are considering the removal of the 10 rides product just due to the technical note with UMO. With UMO, when you allow something like fare capping, the system will automatically cap your fare after 2 fares unless you have any exhaustible products in your pocket or in your wallet in UMO. So if you have like a 10 rides product, it would exhaust all of those products before it does fare capping. So we think a better alternative is just to eliminate any exhaustible products like 10 rides or the pre-purchase day pass, which will increase simplicity and allow people to potentially take transit even more because it's become so easy. So here in option 1, we have the most conservative approach. It keeps the single ride fare, which you'll note at the very top, unchanged across the 3 years that the 3-year horizon we're looking into, and it increases the cost of the 30-day passes. And gradually over time. And then we are also beginning to increase the concession 30-day passes over time, getting closer and closer towards our goal discount, which is 15%. 15% discount from the adult 30-day pass. Option 2 is similar to option 1, where we have a gradual increase to the 30-day passes from its original amount. And here we also increase the single ride fare in the second year to $275. And then, so this is kind of like a 2-year outlook. Option 3, which is the one that we would recommend, it aligns fully with our fare guidelines, increasing the 30-day pass in year 1 and holding that for a year. In year 3, the single ride fare would increase from $250 to $275, and we increase the 30-day passes in line with that just by a little bit in the 3rd year. And option 4 takes a more accelerated approach. It increases the single ride fare from $250 to $275 immediately in the 1st year, alongside an adjustment to the 30-day pass pricing to increase by $12 to $13. Then we would hold steady for a year and then increase slightly in the 3rd year to align the fares across the region with Chilliwack and Central Fraser Valley. In terms of next steps, and we have done considerable consultation with staff, and also we are working to seek endorsement from all related councils for the system before we head over to the Fraser Valley Regional District Council at the end of July to obtain a formal approval on a fare change. So once a fare option is determined, we would and approved, we would work on the marketing collateral, and in fall 2025, we'd be hoping to run a marketing campaign to notify riders and have a fare change in effect after October 1st, or at the discretion of the Fraser Valley Regional District Council. So that's all for today, and we are open for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Schweinmetz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Talon, and thank you for the presentation. I might have missed something. I've got a couple of comments. But first question is, what is an UMO? I might have missed that.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor. So in October of last year, we implemented a new electronic fare payment system. So we moved away from what I call kind of our legacy system, where we used tickets, like physical tickets at vendors. We moved to having a downloadable app on your phone and scanners on all the buses. So you can download the app, you can enter dollars into the app, buy products through the app, and scan that on the bus. You can also use a UMO card. So you can also use, if you don't have the technology and you want to use just a card, you can use a card that you can go to a vendor, or even at home, you can download products onto that card. And then, of course, we always still take cash. But that was kind of the big step change that we made last year in terms of trying to improve the convenience options for people to pay versus having to go to a vendor, buy tickets. Just we kind of eliminated that one step in the process to try to streamline things and make it more convenient.
Okay, thank you. Also, I'm in support of the day pass. I like the fact that people can go to their class or shopping and not worry about a 90-minute time limit before they have to pay more. So I like the day pass idea. I'm in supportive of whatever is going to be sustainable. So if we have to increase prices a bit, I think people expect that. Prices have gone up since in the last 5 years for everything that we do. So I think people can expect that. But my question is, how do we know that our community is being served in terms of the number of routes and the capacity of the system to serve us? Have we ever done a survey? Is there any data to support the fact that we might need more bus service here?
Yeah, thank you for the question, through the chair. Yeah, so we consistently monitor ridership. I don't have any ridership data with me today, but through staff, I can definitely provide some updates in terms of where the ridership's at. We look at not only ridership, but also what we call ridership productivity. So that's how many rides per hour is actually happening when the bus in the bus system. And we have some, let's call them KPIs or standard metrics. When we're below a certain ridership productivity, we think we're fairly well invested in the system. When ridership productivity reaches certain levels, that's when we kind of look for opportunities to increase service. Big asterisk there. Sometimes we get people asking us, we want a bus earlier at 6 a.m. so we can get to work, or maybe there's a gap in the schedule that we need to fill. So we're always working with staff and trying to get the feel from the community on what those things may be. Great for me to be here today and listen to any comments that you guys may have. And then, of course, when we want to implement a transit expansion of service, so let's say we want to increase service, what we do is we determine, I'm just going to use the example of that 6 a.m. We want to add a 6 a.m. trip. We figure out what the cost would be to add that 6 a.m. trip every day. We come back to local council. Well, here we would advise, Harrison, but we would go through the FERD. We would present what the local government share of costs is, and if they are aligned and agree to that, then we sum that up, send it to the province, and seek the matching provincial funding that I mentioned earlier to then implement that expansion.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess what I'd like to see is something more proactive, maybe going out with a survey to all citizens in the Fraser Valley to see what kind of needs they foresee them having in the next year. Because there may be a whole group of people that at 6:30 need to get to Agassiz or to Chilliwack to connect to Mission or whatever the case may be. So it seems to be there should be a more formal survey to uncover those needs other than these KPIs that you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. And just as a follow-up to that, so in 2022, we did what we call our Transit Future Action Plan. So we do those about every 5 years. We did that for Chilliwack and the Fraser Valley systems. And that is kind of a robust public and stakeholder engagement process that we go through. Online surveys, open houses, all of that type of thing. So we did do that in 2021 to write the report in 2022. We're sitting here at 2025, going to 2026. It's about time to refresh that plan. But that's really the Transit Future Action Plan is kind of our strategic visionary document that we look at to then bring proposals to staff and to councils to see if there's opportunities to increase the transit system. So I'll probably be speaking to our planning team and just maybe getting back to you guys with when the next round for that Transit Future Action Plan is. Again, we do a lot of the work, we do all the data collection, we produce a report, but ultimately it's local governments that make the decision on what expansion opportunities go forward, because we're partners in paying for that service, and the province doesn't want to download a potential cost on local government. We're waiting for local government to say, yes, this is a need in our community, and then we go and seek the corresponding funding.
Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thanks, Bob, for your presentation. My second round with you. um, we're very grateful for the transportation bus service that we get in our area compared to many years ago. It does give opportunities for people to get to the schools or shopping, but my only question is if that you may get some comeback when I see the fares, the increase for the seniors and the students. That might be something to maybe rethink because especially with students, you know, they're on a limited budget, depending what they have to pay for their schooling as well to get to. Those who don't have a car rely on the transit, bus transit to get to the universities. And of course for a senior, it's another situation as well, because we hear this a lot. It's limited income, and with everything else going up, I appreciate that the bus service has to be improved, and I think, and obviously at some point you'll be going electric down the road somewhere, but I think that'd be the only that you may get some feedback on those two areas, seniors and the student ones. Thank you for your presentation.
Again, thank you for that comment and question, Director Fazio. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We're trying to find that balance between having enough revenue to help support the system moving forward, but also at the same time recognizing that we want to maintain affordability. So yeah, thank you for your comments.
I'm wondering, I see option 3. Thank you for putting that. You anticipated my question. Perhaps maybe Ms. Malik, could you're advocating for option 3. Could you simply or succinctly explain the reasoning why you're advocating for option 3 as opposed to the other options? What makes option 3 a little better than the other options, if you could, please?
Yeah, for sure. So the reason why when we look into what can happen and the fare change history that, things haven't really increased since 2000. So, in order to like maximize the increase in revenue while also like minimizing the effect to most people, like single ride is still currently like 71% of the passengers in your system are riding with single ride fares. So it wouldn't affect them right away. However, so we'd want to increase the monthly pass closer towards our fare guidelines. And so that's kind of what the option is suggesting. So in the first year, bring it closer, leave a whole year for people to adjust to that new price, see like, there's no change happening. And then in the third year, we increase the fare for single ride to $275, increasing the 30-day pass slightly just to increase alignment and also keeping up with but yeah, essentially the reason is we want to see what the public can handle and just balance like where we can generate the biggest amount of revenue while reducing the greatest number, the loss of rides, essentially.
Thank you. I just noticed, I think all of them have this, but there's over 3 years, there's a pretty significant bump in the cost for the 30-day pass. It's going up roughly 30%, give or take, for the 30-day passes. Yet the single and the day passes don't. How does this affect the revenues? Is this going to like shift? Let's see, is this going to be shifting sort of the revenue stream to a heavier on the 30-day pass? And is there reasoning behind that?
Maybe I'll take first crack at it, and Midhat maybe has some other comments. For frequent riders, just to put into context, if you look at even the final price of the adult fare at $59, If you rode 5 days a week, 2 ways each day, you're spending over $100 in single cash fares. So we're providing, like, I can appreciate the increases, but there's still a significant discount there in the monthly pass. And I would advise anybody who's a frequent transit user, they can quickly calculate whether their ridership, the amount that they ride, if that pass works better for them versus the cash fare ride. Um, you did make a comment just regarding the impact on revenue and the impact on rides. So just to keep in mind, that's really just kind of a price elasticity model that we calculated in there to see what that calculation is. And again, I hate to repeat the term, but what we're trying to find is we're trying to find a balance. You saw your cost recovery is about 11%. So right now, revenue only makes up 11% of your portion of the costs. The rest is made up through taxpayers and taxpayer funded. So again, I'll use the word balance again. We're trying to balance that user pay versus taxpayer paid service. So it's a tricky game. It's a challenge. But I think, really when we look at option 3, we find that one the most balanced of the balanced options, I guess.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to our presenter, thank you. Thank you very much. Irregardless of what option you finally choose, I think most of your ridership understands that costs are certainly rising and would be accepting of a level of a modest increase. The criticism, if I get any from riders, is that at times it's not consistent and reliable here in Harrison. And especially during our busy tourism months, we have a lot of workers who live elsewhere who rely on transit to get them to work in the village. So another thing that crossed my mind is perhaps, say, if you have a rider that is consistently and a long-term rider, maybe offering them some level of an incentive to keep them continuing to purchase, whether that's a 30-day or a 60-day or something like that. So thank you very much.
Sorry, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I noticed from the timeline flowchart graphic, is there anything you're seeking from council at this time?
No, I think at this time, again, fare increases, BC Transit's proposing options, but ultimately it's going to be at the FVRD director table. They'll make the final decision. BC Transit doesn't make that final decision because of obviously what I mentioned in terms of the implications of revenue and taxation. All we're looking for is exactly this, some feedback on the process. A bit of an idea of what your recommended option would be. It's not a formal recommendation. It's just something that we could take forward when we sit with the FVRD. We can say we sat with these communities, we had these conversations, and this is the feedback we received. And it also gives any of the councillors here that are directors on the FVRD board just a preemptive opportunity to review it, understand it, and digest that before they get to the FVRD level.
Thank you. Councillor Facho, is there anything you need from us before July 25th when it comes to the regional district?
got quite a good feel this evening of what's required. The only one which I won't bring up with Bob, I am bringing up later in the program that we're a bit disappointed in the service to Mission, which is coming back, I think, from the four involved communities, back to you guys, because but I'm bringing this up at a later date, later this evening in regards to that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Anything else to add to this before we let our presenters go? I don't think we need a motion, Councillor Schweinbenz. I think Councillor Faccio's our representative on the regional district, and they're not considering it until July 25. So if a motion from any of the councillors wants to be made on what the council endorses to help inform Councillor Faccio, we have several council meetings ahead of us to mull that over. And of course, we all have the benefit of this conversation and presentation. I'd like to thank the presenters for their time in coming out this evening.
Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Enjoyed some time in your beautiful city. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Item 10 on our agenda is correspondence. I guess we need a motion to receive the correspondence, is that correct? Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that motion carries. Two pieces of correspondence. Any business arising from correspondence, agenda item 11. Seeing none, I will move to the next item on our agenda, which is reports from Councillor, item 12. Any councillors have a report this evening? I'll start with Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. May 7th, I attended a Citizens Advisory Committee meeting at Mountain Institution. It was reported that there has been an increase in drone activity and drops. So the institution now has a detection system which is working well. Corrections Service Canada is asking for some help. To stop contraband and unauthorized items from entering the institution. I have some information available tonight if residents are interested. Basically, there is a number to call if you see drone activity or, you know, even a vehicle in the general area. They're asking that it be reported to the number on the flyer. May 14th, I attended to the Kent Harrison Joint Emergency Program Committee meeting. Our CAO provided an overview of the village mock EOC activation and neighborhood evacuation exercise. Seabird Island reported on their mock community evacuation that was held on April 23rd. During this discussion on both communities' exercise, it was determined that a joint mock exercise, which would include all communities, would be highly beneficial. The emergency coordinator reported that January to May there was no significant weather events. The April snow survey data from 104 manual and 102 automated weather stations around the province show as of April 1st The provincial average is 79% of normal, which is significantly higher than last year at this time, where it was 63%. The Fraser River at Hope is at 79% as of April 1st. So post-meeting, I reviewed the May 1st data, which shows the provincial snowpack at 71%. The Fraser River at Hope now indicates at 70%, which indicates the seasonal freshet has started. May 15th, I attended the Agassiz Harrison Healthy Community Meeting, and an update from the food bank. 2,280 individuals utilized the food bank last year and are seeing an increase of 3 to 4 individuals each week, along with 2 new families. With this increase, the food bank is promoting once again another food bank challenge from May 1st to July 22nd. And as always, community services is looking for volunteers. If you can help out and serve our communities, please contact them. And I believe members of our staff will be promoting this food bank challenge throughout the next couple of months. And my last item is a public service announcement. I want everybody to save the date. Terry Fox Run and Walk will be held here in Harrison once again on September 14th. We have a very active committee organizing this event, and our run is now available on the Terry Fox Foundation website, where you can register for the run and also donate. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. This past Saturday, I attended the official opening of the Harrison Marina, now owned by Seabird Island. Considering the bad weather, it was a very good turnout with band members and local residents and visitors. Many food outlets were there. I was asked to say a few words on behalf of the Mayor and Council. Unexpected, but I did that with no problem whatsoever. And we welcomed them to the village and offered any help we can. Speaking to some of the band members, at the moment they're even having their council meetings at the Grand Motel, Harrison Grand, that they purchased as well. So I'm not sure what the evenings their council meetings are there, but maybe something could be arranged down the road. At the Regional and Corporate Services Committee meeting on May the 15th, Mission announced, which is good news for the Mission Hospital. They receiving $18 million for renos to the emergency area, and the beds will increase from 17 beds to 41 beds. So that's good news for that area. At the RACS meeting, there was discussion in regards to the where are we? Children's baby chairs now. The regional district are going through a recycling where they're going to collect these children's where the baby used to sit in the cars, and they're going to recycle them. So that's another program that they're spearheading. Proposed car seat recycling pilot program. That's what it's a 2-year pilot project for the collection and recycling of child car seats. On the regional park strategic plan, this is an area that they're going to change. Their plan finished in 2024, so the new plan is going to be for the 26 expansion funding. And I would think, as we are making a proposal to the ALR regarding adding more trails to the east sector, that I think that it would be a good opportunity for our staff to have discussions with the regional districts in regards to that, for them to hopefully, if they would take that over as well and combine it with the east sector area that they're covering now. But I think that's an opportunity for us to get on there. And if we do get funding for these trails as well, that would be an opportunity to expand on that. But I don't think we have the capacity or the capability to maintain those trails like the regional district does. So I would suggest that to our staff. And on the BC Transit, we were very disappointed that there's going to be, I believe, a letter coming forward from Mission, Dewdney area, District of Kent, and the village of Harrison Hot Springs, because the route from Agassiz to Mission has been put off for at least a couple of years. We were all under the impression that that was, although there was never any promises, it was going to maybe be put in force by next year. So we're rather disappointed on that. So through you, Your Worship, if I may ask the council if they would send a letter to the minister regarding that, if they could review the situation and maybe bring forward the funding to fund that route, because besides many folks from this side who occasionally catch the train in Mission, it was also recognized a few years ago as Scenic 7, which is a route from Vancouver or more from Mission to Harrison Hot Springs for recreation, and that's where the Harrison Tourism added that Area C, Harrison Mills, to their funding as well. So it's an important route as well for that, plus getting people to Mission as well. So I'm asking for a letter of support to go to the minister, which I'm assuming is the Minister of Transportation, that we're rather disappointed with that route has been pushed back because of funding. Also, if I may just jump back quickly to the trails, I would also ask staff, this has been a discussion now since 2008 with the regional district. It's not an easy one to do, but as you all know, we do have the Campbell Lake Trail, which has been cleared over the years by the odd volunteer. But that's something that I think could be also added to the regional district's new parks and trail strategic plan. So I put that back into the hands of our staff as well. That's the end of my report, Your Worship. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pacho. The letter, should we have a motion from council?
Yes, I would make that motion.
Draft a letter to the appropriate provincial minister. A seconder to that motion is Councillor Schweinbans. Oh, yes, he seconded. Any discussion to the motion to write a letter of encouragement on the bus?
Mayor Talon, I was just going to, thank you, Mayor Talon. We had him in the room. We should have cornered him, I think, at the time. Was Mr. Rigma not?
Through you, Your Worship, we did have the same presentation in the regional district. Excuse me. I don't think it was the appropriate thing to do. We needed some discussion, as we did after the regional district meeting, with the parties involved. And like I've said to the gentleman this evening, I would be bringing this up at this evening, which I did. So I think out of courtesy, he was here to do his presentation. I didn't want to corner the man on that particular, on that. I don't think it's entirely up to him. The funding comes from the provincial government, so it's, he was here this evening to show us the the change in the upcoming fairs, sorry.
And Mr. Mayor Talon, if I could too, I mean, it lends to what I was trying to get to as well. I'd love to see a survey in our community and in Agassiz to what kind of what things we can do to improve the service. And it sounded like he was open to that suggestion, but hopefully they do it quickly because it sounds like they've got very old data that they're working with.
But it doesn't stop tonight. Like I said, Councillor, this is another issue will be coming up, I'm assuming, on Thursday evening.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I'll certainly support the motion, but I also think that to request staff to put in a request to meet with the minister at UBCM this September would be a good thing, have the opportunity to meet in person with the minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Yeah, I agree. That might be an appropriate time to continue to follow up on our letter of encouragement. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Councillor Jackson, a report.
Thank you, Worship. I really don't have anything to report except the good things, none of that other stuff. Communities in Bloom, May the 26th. We're going to have a big day. We have about 120 children from the school. They're going to come to the resort and they're going to get a hot dog and a drink. And then they're going to clean the beach. We've done this before and it's going to be an exciting day for Harrison to get something really positive going again. On June the 3rd, our staff had worked really hard on this. It's going to be a planting day at the lagoon. It is a big area. The plants will be there. Bring your trowel and your mitts and plant some flowers or whatever they have, the trees, and we're going to make it very beautiful for the future. I'm working on the July the 1st and July the 1st parade. It's coming along very well. So if anybody knows anybody who wants to enter in the parade, please let me know so it could be bigger and better than last year. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Schweinmans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I too don't have a report other than a sort of a community service bulletin, if I could. And that is, and I mentioned it last week or 2 weeks ago, and is about bears. Bears continue to be an issue in our community, and on social media, we see videos every single day. Last week, I think it was her name is Lori from BC Wildlife, has been spending a lot of time in our community. We really appreciate her efforts. Her feedback has been mostly positive. I think most people are embracing this, but there are a few stragglers. So I was just hoping to give a shout out to people who don't realize here in Harrison, we are a bear smart community, and we're trying to secure our garbage, get our garbage inside all days of the week, and days of pickups. Let's get it out there, not before 5 a.m. so that we don't give a buffet to the bears. So just wanted to reaffirm that, and hopefully things will improve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinmans. Yeah, I've noticed a few cans out earlier than 5 a.m. On the late Wednesday night coming home. So hopefully those people can be reminded by neighbors and friends that garbage goes to the curbside in the morning, and probably more importantly, that garbage and compost is stored securely is probably the most important thing, because I think a lot of the incidents involve, they're not on a Thursday morning or pickup morning, but other times of the week. Neighbor, very regular right now. Reports from Mayor, item 13. Just a few things to report out on. I was happy to attend a Sasquatch Days planning meeting. Lots of things happening. This will happen just a few days ahead of the Canada Day parade that Councillor Jackson's working on. So happy to participate in that planning meeting, and it's going to be a big event for the whole village and for Stehalis and many other of our Indigenous neighbors. I attended on May 14th the Kent-Harrison Joint Emergency Planning with Councillor Vital. My takeaway was it was a good meeting, and it was interesting to hear the various agencies sharing experiences and how each of the various emergency response agencies back each other up and provide aid and support in those times of emergencies. It was a really good meeting to hear people talking about challenges and also the opportunities of collaborating, working together, and building capacity and building knowledge and experience. May 15th, I chaired an age-friendly committee meeting, and that was a good meeting. Lots going on with that committee. Not as exciting, I think, as maybe the Communities in Bloom. We don't have a big event, but there's little things happening in the background, including some projects trying to get off the ground with students from the school and the community gardens. So stay tuned for that. And on May 16th, I participated in a mayor's call on Bill 15, provincial legislation for infrastructure, essentially fast-tracking infrastructure. The focus of the presentation and discussion was how this legislation, if enacted, would streamline or quicken development approvals for large infrastructure projects. Very clear what it doesn't include, but what it does include. And there are some areas where it might impact municipal authority when it comes to amendments to the official community plan and other types of things where there's some duplication or redundancies. So this legislation is an attempt to streamline for some of these large infrastructure projects, and in certain things it may impact municipal authorities in certain areas. Lots to read on that, but that's just a summary. And that was just on Friday, and I've shared that presentation with the rest of council. So if we have questions on that, there may also be another meeting we may want to take at UBCM in September. And that is my whole report. Item 14, reports and minutes from committees and commissions. And corporate officers are one tonight, I think.
Thank you. Yes, on page 15 of your agenda packages, excuse me, the recommendation is that the following adopted minutes be received for information. The Communities in Bloom Committee meeting minutes of April 3rd, 2025.
Move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion to the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries. Next item, corporate officer.
Thank you. The next item, I have a report regarding a liquor license amendment for the Harrison Hot Springs Resort and Spa. Thank you. The Harrison Hot Springs Resort and Spa currently holds a liquor primary license for the Islands Bar located on the lower level. The license currently allows for 136 patrons inside and 34 on the exterior patio for a total of 170 people maximum. The application is looking to increase this to 154 inside and 90 outside for a total of 244 people maximum. The village has received a referral from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch to permanently increase the in-person capacity of the service area. Under Section 38 of that Act, Council may either resolve to provide no comment on this application or may undertake a public consultation process and subsequently provide comment to the LCRB. If Council does resolve to provide comments, the public consultation process must gather the views of residents of an area determined by the local government by receiving written comments in response to a public notice of the application, conducting a public hearing, holding a referendum, or using another method that Council considers appropriate. If the village does provide feedback, the comments must contain information on the impact of noise on nearby residents, the impact on the community if the application is approved, the views of residents with a description of the method used to gather those views, and Council's recommendation as to whether to approve the application and the reasons upon which the recommendations are based. The village has also been asked to confirm the zoning of this location. In the absence of a council policy outlining the process by which staff will address this referral, staff would require a council resolution to either not provide comment or to proceed with a public consultation process. Staff are recommending that council seek public input and provide comments after considering the responses. And so I just have one alteration to the recommendation that's before council this evening, and it's in relation to the pending strike with the post office. So the first recommendation there is that council directs staff to proceed with the public consultation process for the liquor license amendment application for the Harrison Hot Springs Resort and Spa by posting on the village's website and notice boards, and by making efforts to hand deliver or mail notice to properties within 30 meters of the hotel, seeking written submissions for a 2-week period, and that staff be directed to conduct an impact analysis to determine the impact of noise on nearby residents and general impact to the community, and that the application be referred to the Agassiz RCMP detachment for comment.
Move recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Schweinbeck.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. You mentioned hand delivering questionnaires to residences within 30 meters. Is the 30 meters stuck in stone? It just seems to me that's very close. And certainly with regards to the hotel, I don't think there's any really residents within 30 meters of that bar. And I think people in the back street and other areas ought to know about this as well and be able to have feedback on it.
Corporate Officer, anything on the distance, the radius?
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Schweinbenz. No, the 30 meters is not stuck in stone. That is up to council. Right now, I believe there would be some residents, for example, 120 Esplanade would fall into that category, and it can make it challenging to hand deliver to those strata units if the mail strike does take place. But we could also make efforts to put them mail out before the strike. But the 30 meters is up to council, or whatever you'd like to increase or decrease that to.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. Councillor Schweinbeck.
So, thank you. I also note that in the Act, it can be under the expense of the applicant as well, just so you know. But I would move that we increase that to 100 meters. I think more people ought to have an opportunity to speak to these.
Councillor Schweinbeck, if I understand correctly, you're making a motion to amend the motion to change the 30 meters to 100 meters. Is there a seconder to that motion? I don't see a seconder. I think 30 meters myself captures for noise probably. It includes 120 Esplanade, which would be probably the most impacted neighbors.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the parking lot behind there will be used a lot more. There'll be more people going to this establishment, and people along the back roads would like to have comment about this. I don't think 30 meters will touch one resident, quite frankly, for a mail out, maybe a couple.
In the absence of a seconder, I think the motion fails at this time. I have any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I do support the recommendation from staff. I think we need to keep in mind that our tourists and visitors often travel in groups. So a higher patron capacity would allow the resort to better serve larger parties of individuals, such as weddings or conferences. This could promote the need for additional staff, creating more seasonal and year-round employment. An increase in patron capacity would give the resort more flexibility to attract these types of larger events in our shoulder and off seasons, reducing the economic impact in these shoulder seasons. Thank you, Mayor Talon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any other Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Worship. The hotel has a very good reputation. They're not going to go out of their way to destroy it. Increasing the side on the inside is a slam dunk to me. The people that sit outside are going to be out there as long as the weather permitting. They may be back inside by 10 o'clock, rarely going to be longer. From my point of view, This is a business they're running. It's a good business they run. They attract a lot of money. We're all here really because of the resort. I would be in favor of the application going to the RCMP. That would, for me, would be period. The rest, I think this is the kind of decision that we can make on our own here as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. The only question I had is, this is the liquor license capacity. Is that different than the building occupancy or room occupancy? Would we benefit from having our fire department look at the occupancy load, CAO, or are you able to shed a little light on that?
Thank you. FVRD did provide the calculations for the occupancy load. The impact we would have to look at when we do the impact analysis is in relation to the zoning bylaw as well for parking spaces. There's a minimum requirement. If council would like to refer it to the fire department, they certainly can.
Thank you. No, I just wanted to know if the impact analysis includes the review by the fire department. I don't need to expressly state it, but if it's something, and with parking, if it needs, if that's part of the impact assessment that the village staff will be doing, then that's sufficient for me. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Opposed? Councillor Jackson, you're opposed? Okay, noted. Next item, corporate officer, when you're ready.
Thank you. I have another similar report for council this evening regarding another 2 liquor license amendment applications. So Milo's Greek Taverna holds a food primary license, which allows for liquor service from 9 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. The Black Forest Restaurant holds a food primary license, which also allows for liquor service from 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Monday through Saturday and 11 a.m. to midnight on Sunday. Again, the village has received 2 referrals from the LCRB as the licensee has applied to extend the liquor license service hours at each restaurant to end at 2 a.m. every day. So the recommendation is very similar to the previous one, that council directs staff to proceed with the public consultation process for the liquor license amendment applications for Milo's Greek Taverna and Black Forest Restaurant by posting on the village's website and notice boards, and by making efforts to mail or hand deliver to properties within 30 meters of each restaurant, seeking written submissions for a 2-week period, and that staff be directed to conduct an impact analysis to determine the impact of noise on nearby residents and general impact to the community, and that the applications be referred to the Agassiz RCMP detachment for comment.
Thank you, corporate officer. A mover to that motion. I'll move the motion. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Jackson seconds it. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Fatcho.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, this is this 2 o'clock situation, nothing unusual. It used to be back in the day when it was a Lido, it was till 2 o'clock in the morning. I believe that those workers who worked very late to the night shifts and that used to enjoy just stopping there on their way home. And most of the walking people who lived in the village. I mean, we're dealing here with a very reliable business people who have committed to put a lot of resources and employment into this community, and I'm sure that this extension is more in relation to maybe when they get their groups that come in that would like to, who are staying mostly in the community. But other than that, I have no problems. It's something that used to be in place in the village. It was run very well at the beginning, but later on with a couple of groups that took that premises over, it did get out of hand, and the liquor board had to control and come in and control it. But we're dealing here with very professional, competent owners of these premises. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fatcho. Councillor Schweinmans.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Yeah, I struggled with this one. I did some research, and there are larger cities in BC who are looking to extend liquor hours even to 3 and 4 o'clock. Places like Vancouver and Victoria, Prince George and Kelowna. And they've got designated entertainment spots, but they've got also have a lot of infrastructure. They've got SkyTrains and BC Transit and Uber and taxis, and people live within walking distance of where they're drinking. And I just have a problem going to 2 o'clock, to be honest with you. Um, maybe I'm getting old, but I think nothing good happens after midnight, quite frankly. And I know that we're a tourist place, and we're trying to get uh, more events and weddings and that sort of thing. But I don't want to see us going back to having a rave and discotheque here down on the waterfront. I don't think we've got the police services and fire services to handle it. Too many people are getting hurt on the roads, and we don't have the infrastructure to get people home. So I'm generally not supportive of it unless we are assured that this is just for a temporary, occasional wedding or event. And I haven't seen that on this application. And regardless, I think if they wanted to do event type planning with weddings every Saturday or every Friday, there is an application process in this act that allows them to do that. So I'm not supportive of going to a blanket 2 a.m. anywhere in the village, quite frankly. Thank you.
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, and I must be showing my age, but I certainly remember being a patron at the Lido from time to time. Um, I think extending the liquor hours certainly does have the potential for businesses to serve more customers, especially during our peak season, which again could result in the hiring of more staff and provide more employment opportunities to our local residents. And even though these restaurants do not and cannot accommodate large weddings, often what happens is when weddings are taking place at the resort, people will stay that extra time and will want to experience our local restaurants. And I also think that group travel would be more likely if the village accommodates more liquor policies. It also allows our hotels and restaurants to offer more nighttime events and nighttime entertainment. Therefore, I will support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. We have two owners that own 3 restaurants in the village. They employ a lot of people. They have an outstanding reputation. They are not going to jeopardize that in any way, shape, or form by anybody who comes into their establishment. Even right now, they can deal with that professionally, so everybody works out. It's just one of those sort of things. They're going to build another hotel in this community. Millions and millions of dollars that they've invested into our community, paying taxes. They are not going to let something like this take charge or hurt their reputation. Reputation is something that once you lose it, it's gone forever. And I don't see that ever happening. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. As for myself, the recommendation is to conduct an impact assessment, public input, and refer to the RCMP before making any decision. I know I think I would benefit from having those analysis and those reports and any comments from the RCMP, so I am in favor of the recommendation as well. Call a vote if there's no further discussion. All in favor of the motion, and that carries unanimously. Corporate Officer, next item when you're ready, please.
Thank you. I have a report regarding council correspondence policy 1.41. During the process of updating the village's council procedure bylaw, staff presented information on how best to address council correspondence. At the January 14, 2025 special council meeting, the Committee of the Whole made the following recommendation: that staff be directed to develop a council correspondence policy. Attached to this report is a draft policy for council's consideration. The goal of the policy is to create consistency in how correspondence addressed to council or its individual members is processed. The policy would formalize some already existing practices and provide staff with a framework to rely upon when determining whether a piece of correspondence should be placed on a regular meeting agenda. And so the recommendation is that council correspondence policy 1.41 be adopted.
Move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion. I have a question, and it's in section 2. All correspondence addressed to the mayor shall be handled at, and it says their discretion. Is there mean the mayor's discretion, or yes, is that true? Okay. Section 8. It talks about complaints addressed to the mayor, and surprisingly, I've received a couple of complaints. Not all of them, I think, warrant being directed to appropriate staff. I will maybe politely suggest I've had complaints about the length of my hair, so I don't want to see the corporate officer getting cutting shears to address the problem. Is there, this is fairly blanket. I'm wondering if there's some flexibility if council or myself receive correspondence that maybe just needs to hit the not be pursued or not be followed up in any way, shape, or form. Is there a way that that loops back so we're not caught in a very strange situation? Corporate officer.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Item 1A, I think, addresses, maybe hopefully addresses some of that concern. Correspondence that is repetitive, discriminatory, inappropriate, or threatening does not require an acknowledgement or response. It's kind of hard to say, substantiated complaints in there, or complaints with merit. So you could kind of quantify that a little bit down there, but I think having correspondence handled at your discretion could fall into that category as well.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other, I only bring it up because it's not just one email I've received, it's been several. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Next item, corporate officer, when you're ready.
Thank you. Our next item is a report from our Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator regarding anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy 1.42.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. At the March 3rd, 2025 regular council meeting, council passed the following resolution. The council directs staff to develop a formal anti-racism, anti-discrimination policy, which will provide the framework for reporting and responding to discrimination and racism within the village of Harrison Hot Springs. The village is committed to fostering a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment for all residents, volunteers, visitors, staff, and council members. Acts of discrimination and racism in any form are unacceptable and contrary to the values of respect, diversity, and dignity that the community upholds. An anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy would apply to all employees, elected officials, contractors, volunteers, and students working or volunteering for the village or providing professional services to it. The policy would apply to the interpretation and application of current to new bylaws, regulations, policies, procedures, contracts, procurements, and activities carried out by the village. The scope of the policy includes all aspects of the village's activities, including its working environment, procurement, services, meetings, and various public events. Additionally, this scope will include ongoing relationships with individuals, businesses, community groups, and contractors, as well as with other local governments and public and private entities. The attached draft policy was developed after reviewing the Fraser Valley Regional District's anti-racial discrimination policy and those of other municipalities. The adoption of an anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy would be complementary to the forthcoming development of a diversity, equity, and inclusion framework and plan. And so the recommendation before council is that anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy number 1.42 be adopted.
Thank you, Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Faccio. Discussion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I was one that brought this motion forward at the noted council meeting. And I do want to extend my thanks and appreciation for the development of this very clear and comprehensive policy. And a special thanks to our Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator, who I know had a huge input in the development of it. It reflects that the village is not only compliant, but is 100% committed to a culture of respect and inclusion. This policy is not only a reflection of best practices, it sets a new standard for accountability and will serve as a tool in empowering our council and staff to act with integrity and with responsibility. It's clear to me that this policy will not only serve as a vital mechanism, but also as a reflection of our village values. I do want to express my appreciation to all of our staff for their assistance in developing a strong and robust policy. You approached a very complex topic with clarity, which will have a lasting and positive impact on our community. I very much support the recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Tallon.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. I too spent a fair bit of time on the weekend going through it, and I can see the amount of work that's gone into it, and I certainly appreciate it. For myself, I have a lot of questions, and I would like to see this policy advanced, but I feel I would benefit by referring it to a future committee of the whole meeting. There's some things in here that I think I'd like to hear give an opportunity for public input on the policy. And there's a few things, the way it's drafted, that raises questions for me. The role of an investigator, in particular, reporting to the CAO, and the scope of authority regarding the investigator and the potential sanctions as they may apply to council members, I think requires a little bit of thought. I need more time than I had on the weekend to go through it. There's a few other things that I would like to have a better understanding, and with the author's indulgence to sort of explain their thinking, because there's a few areas that I think left me with a few questions as to what actually was going to be bound here. The scope applying to contractors, I'd like to think that through as well and understand how that can be realized and what that means. And I'd like a little bit more time, and I'd like the opportunity for some public input. write us as counselors or to see if there's any feedback on this draft policy. I think it's a really excellent start. There's a lot of good things in here, but I think it benefits from maybe a little bit of time ruminating on it and discussing it maybe further candidly in a future committee of the whole meeting. Councillor Swinemans.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. First of all, I'm not sure if, Kaylee, this was your first big what policy that you put together, but kudos, well done, well researched and well put together. I really appreciate that. I too had some questions like Mayor Tallon. For the most part, this completely reflects my values and I think the values of most people in this village. So I appreciate all of this. There's a couple of niggly little things that I had. For instance, I looked up the Webster definitions of some of these things like cultural racism. It's quite a bit different than what we have here. So I think that requires a little bit of discussion about what cultural racism is, because there's a pendulum in all these things, and it's certainly the first sentence there on cultural racism. Certainly, that's how things are manifested, but that's not the actual definition, because we need to make sure that if the pendulum swings 100 years from now, that we cover that this policy covers it as well. And also, I found that the definitions or inclusions of sexual orientation are missing here, and I'd like to see some inclusion about that as well. So I would support, with amendments, I would support the motion, or as Mayor Tallon suggested, to go to a committee of the whole and discuss it more fulsomely, more wholly.
Any other comments on the draft policy? Councillor Thatcher.
I personally am very satisfied with the report. There's obviously been a lot of thank you to the staff for bringing this forward. It's been quite a time in coming to council, and they're following our suggestion previously to bring this forward, and reading through it, I think it covers everything very, very well, respectfully, and I personally don't have any problems with it. So I will support the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Worship. As Shakespeare said, the English language is full of double entendres. And when you look at the English language, one word can have many, many meanings. And that's the real problem that you're up against. What does that word really, really mean? So I think this policy covers it very well. Yes, you may be able to make some changes, but I think whatever changes you make, you're going to go right back to here. So it's just really a matter of your worship. If you want this to go back, if you're uncomfortable, then we should send it back to committee of the whole.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Jackson. I maybe give a couple examples of some of the things I'm wrestling with. On the very first principle, the village acknowledges and recognizes the existence in our community of racism in all its forms. I would hope that's not true, but I wonder why that has to be stated in this policy when it's supposed to be looking forward and not backwards or in the mirror. I don't know how that helps the village. There are certain things when I read it in the governance, I'm not sure what's meant under governance. It talks about a nomination process that's equitable and transparent, and that the process is communicated to all members. But if you're a member of a committee, you've already been nominated and apparently appointed. So there seems to be two ideas blended into one section there. And I don't want someone misreading it or coming away with something that wasn't intended. So I'd like to know what was intended there and where the communication was intended. And as I mentioned earlier, the complaint processes and what the investigator can and can't do, and the types of sanctions that can be I have questions about how this fits in, synchronizes or fits in with existing policies of the village, such as our code of conduct and the harassment policies the village may have as well. It's not that it's a problem, I just really want to understand how they fit in, and if there's a duplication, or if this says something slightly different than another policy, I want to know which one to rely on. And I, over the weekend, didn't have the time to pull that apart and really do that. Anyway, I really appreciate the effort gone in here, and I think with a committee of the whole meeting and some clarification, I think we'll have a very good document at the end. But in its current form, it makes me very uncomfortable to support it at this time. And it's not because of the intent of it, it's because there's certain features in here I just don't know how they work. And I don't know the full implications of them and what was intended. There's a motion on the floor to adopt it. I'll make a motion to amend the motion to replace it with, if I can do this, with the corporate officer to guide me if I'm doing wrong, but to amend the motion to replace it with that this be referred to a future of the committee whole meeting and allow opportunity for public input on the policy. I'll move that. Is there a second to that motion? Seconded by Councillor Swinebands. Any discussion on that motion to amend the motion?
Question,
Go ahead,
Mayor
Councillor
Talon,
Swinebands.
sorry
Yeah.
about that. Question for staff. We don't want to delay the diversity and equity document as well. Can that work concurrently while we massage this document?
The CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. These are meant to go not necessarily hand in hand, but they're going to be concurrent, so we can work on the DEI policy while this discussion. But perhaps thinking how this document has created such a challenge that the DEI policy may create the same thing. Perhaps we can, if it is council's wish, to defer this to a future committee of the whole, and maybe both those documents need to come. But perhaps we wait to see. Obviously, we don't have the DEI right now, and that may be something we want to consider at that time. And maybe we can align those two reports to a future COW.
Thank you, CAO. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Swinebands.
Mayor Talon, yeah, I'll just say it may be worth us going back and just, it may be a couple of things. It may take a very short amount of time. It's probably better to get these kinds of things right the first time, even if it takes an extra 15 or 30 days. I am supportive of what you'd like to do, and just discuss it, hash it out. May not take too long. Thank you.
No further, Councillor Vital, the discussion on the motion.
Just before you call the question, Mayor Talon, I'd appreciate reading the motion out again. Thank you.
The motion that's currently on the floor and seconded, corporate officer, could it be read out, please?
Thank you. So the motion that was currently on the floor was to adopt the policy, and then it's not so much an amendment, it's when a question's under consideration, you can move to refer it. So there will be, if the motion to refer it to a committee of the whole, which was moved by Mayor Talon, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz, if that passes, there will be no vote on the main motion. Thank you.
I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion to refer to committee of the whole? 1, 2, 3 opposed. 2 opposed. The motion carries. Next item, corporate officer, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. Our last staff report this evening is from our community services manager regarding geese management.
Community service manager.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. At the February 18th, 2025 regular council meeting, the following resolution was passed. That council directs staff to research the geese management strategies employed at Cultus Lake and bring a report back for council's consideration. Staff reviewed correspondence received from representatives from the Cultus Lake Goose Committee, including the environmental organization Cultus Lake Aquatic Stewardship Strategy and the electoral area director. Their correspondence indicated that the community of Cultus Lake had tried several geese management strategies that did not seem to support the efforts of controlling the population. They have seen success in recent years, though, after hiring and incorporating recommendations made by Ebb Consulting. Ebb Consulting identified locations of goose nests and addled eggs while also teaching the local environmental organization how to do the same. This addling, along with education and other habitat modifications, have shown improvements in the negative effects of geese at Cultus Lake. This process is done under federal permit with professional training of the volunteers. Staff also researched and found that the City of Abbotsford has a similar geese management program to control the issue of the negative impacts. The City of Abbotsford also works with Ebb Consulting on an ongoing basis and uses egg addling to control the population on public lands. Staff contacted Ebb Consulting to receive information on preparing a geese management strategy for the village. Their recommended approach involves first identifying where the geese come from and identifying means of population control. To do this, they suggested a set of 4 surveys to take place between late March and early May, the nesting season of Canada geese. Staff obtained a cost estimate to conduct these nesting surveys to identify and map active nest locations and help understand sources of hatch and specific nest timing in the area. These would take place between March and May of 2026, and the cost estimate is approximately $11,112. If approved by Council, this could be added to the 2026 financial plan. The recommendation before Council is that the village include geese management strategies as a budgetary item in the 2026 financial plan.
Move, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebens. Discussion. I think I'll just make a couple of comments. It was the Miami Streamkeepers that sort of alerted me to these opportunities out of Cultus Lake. And what was really interesting for me when I saw some of the material that was sort of flowed through over my desk to staff was we don't have to learn lessons the hard way. We can take the benefit of what works in Cultus Lake. And they tried, as you can see, a long list of things that were unsuccessful. This does work. I'm in favor of the motion. I think those costs up front reduce the work necessary to keep our beaches and waterfront clean, and will reduce sort of aggressive bird behavior on busy days if both birds, Canada geese, and people are trying to occupy the beach at the same time. So I'm definitely in favor of the motion. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I will support the motion, but I actually like the geese. And I think for this year, if we could direct staff to put out some public education on the geese population. Previous years, when our beaches are up full of families, and I quite often have seen little children chasing the geese and the geese being fed. I have noticed, and I don't have any stats on this, but it appears to me that the geese population is reducing. And once again, I have no hard data on that. I will support the motion. However, as I said, I would like to direct staff to ensure that there is a public message put out, not to feed the geese, not to chase the geese, be kind to the geese, because they have been part of our beach area for years and years and years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. I think the program, if successful, doesn't eliminate Canada geese. It just manages and controls population from exploding. Any other discussion on the motion? I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion, and that carries. Opposed? Noted. Councillor Jackson. You're on the geese side. Bylaws, we don't have any bylaws tonight. New business, there was none. Are there any notices of motion tonight from any council? Seeing none, I'll go to item 19 on the agenda, question period for items relevant to the agenda. Are there any questions tonight? Go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. I'd like to ask about this goose resolution because it seems that if you dedicate $11,000 for EBB Environmental to go looking for goose nests next year, 2026, you'll be doing nothing next year to control goose populations, and the earliest you'll be doing it is 2027. And I think that that is 2 years wasted. Council may not be aware that I've already made a proposal to Council to addle the eggs of the geese in the Harrison area, and I'm still prepared to do so. If EBB comes to Harrison next year and gets $11,000 to look for nests in Harrison Village within the village boundaries, they'll be very disappointed. You'll find 6 nests, maybe 7, maybe 10 on a good day. This is not where the geese are nesting. They're not nesting in Harrison. They're nesting in a much wider area beyond the village boundaries, and you'll be wasting $11,000 to bring these people in next year. If you really want the geese to be reduced, I'd like you to consider my proposal to deal with the nesting geese in a much wider area and further up Harrison Lake in difficult locations that I know of, because I've done the survey already. So this is a waste of time, EBB, and a waste of $11,000. It's not going to control the population. So I'd like to ask if Council would forestall any action on spending this $11,000 and listen to somebody who actually knows where the geese are and where they nest and how to addle them. A local person instead of somebody from out of town again. And that's my question. Will you reconsider this decision?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Allen. No council's voted to put this in the budget for next year. If I understand correctly from the information provided, addling is done with a federal permit, with training, etc. So if we're going to do this, I'd like to do it in accordance with the law and the permits and regulations and done properly.
Mr. Mayor, the federal permit was part of my initial proposal to Council. I'm quite aware of the regulations.
You have your answer. I've answered your question. Council's not going to reconsider it. Tyler, is there anyone online with a question tonight?
Anyone online, if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise your hand function. No questions, Your Worship.
Thank you, Tyler and CAO.
I have a second question, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Allen, you've used your 2 minutes. I've answered your question straight up. You asked it again and you got the same answer. So that is our council procedure bylaw. And thank you for your question. Motion to adjourn by Councillor
Well, I
Fascio,
think that's very
seconded by
rude,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Jackson. I'd like some order and decorum, please. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of adjourning, and we're adjourned.